All right, guys, so Where Winds Meet is set to launch very, very soon, and a lot of you have been asking me what my thoughts are on the game, so here are my honest thoughts. Based off of the first 5 to 10 hours of gameplay, I would rate Where Winds Meet a solid A. I would give it a solid A grade, but I want to emphasize the first 10 hours of gameplay. I have played and covered this game previously, but I never made it past that 10-hour gameplay mark. I've recently returned to the game, played the latest updated version of the game on the Chinese servers, and yeah, based off of the first 10 hours of gameplay, again, I've got to give it a solid A grade. Now, I do not know how good this game is going to be longer term. I do not know how long it's going to last, mainly because the end game is still a big question mark. I don't know what the replayability is going to be like. Before we go any further, by the way, be sure to like and subscribe. I'm getting pretty close to 200,000 subs. It's a huge goal, huge milestone of mine. I would really appreciate it if you guys hit that sub button. It is completely free, by the way. And also follow me on Twitch. I will be streaming a lot of Where Winds Meet during the launch. We're going to be going pretty hard. Our guild is open for recruitment, by the way. Be sure to also join our Discord. I will stop plugging myself now, and let's get back to the video. I wanted to give that grade out the gate right at the beginning of this video for those of you who just wanted the quick TLDR. Now, if you do give a shit about what I have to say about the game, Where Winds Meet is a hybrid MMORPG. That's the best way I can describe it. A lot of you guys will be asking, is this an MMO? How much of it is like an MMO? And the best way to describe this game is that it is truly an online RPG that has blended all of the different types of online RPGs. It's taken elements from MMORPGs, from single player co-op, action RPGs, and essentially fused them together. They've married both of those two game concepts together. And when you enter the game, when you initially enter the world, the game is not going to feel anything like an MMORPG. You're going to question yourself whether or not they're going to be like, is this really an MMO? Because I was thinking the same thing. It does not look like an MMO. It does not play like an MMO. But there is very much an MMO side to this game, right? So you've got the single player co-op action RPG part of it, which is essentially a game that will be more on par with like Elden Ring, Dark Souls. I'm not saying that this game is at the level of Elden Ring, and it is Elden Ring, okay? I'm just trying to describe the genre, you know what I mean? The general structure of the game. It's more of that single player action RPG. And then the other half of it is the online / MMORPG mode, and you can quite literally select between these two modes. And Where Winds Meet has, I feel like, done a really good job marrying these two concepts, because what you generally get with single player action RPGs is you generally get a much better campaign, because the game revolves around that campaign, versus MMORPGs. Let's be real here. How good is the campaign for MMORPGs? Not amazing, right? I mean, you generally just go through an MSQ, whoop-de-doo, right? But games like Elden Ring or any other single player action RPG, all of the content is within that campaign, side quests, exploration, all that stuff, right? So that is very present in Where Winds Meet, where you have that single player action RPG and some of the quality that comes along with that. But then you also have what those single player action RPG games don't have, which are the MMO elements. And those MMO elements are like those PvE dungeons and raids, being in a shared world with other players, world events, PvP events, PvP instances, PvE instances, as I mentioned before. And you really get a combination of both. As far as the first 10 hours go, it's done pretty well. I believe there's about 150 hours or so. I don't know if that's specific campaign hours or if that's just like the single player content that includes the exploration, but I do remember something being said around 150 hours. Okay, so you can kind of think of it like 150 hours of gameplay is there for you within the single player co-op mode, but then also the MMORPG mode comes with that that more persistent experience where the replayability should hopefully be there with, like, the endgame PvE dungeons, raids, and PvP stuff, right? So Like I said, I have no idea how good the endgame loop is going to feel. If they nail that, then this is a very, very solid game. The first 10 hours, very solid for now. Well, not for now, sorry. The first 10 hours, very solid, but for now, I'm going to have to bite my tongue on how good the endgame is. Therefore, I'm going to have to bite my tongue with how good of an MMORPG this game is, right? So a couple of things I do want to highlight here when it comes to the MMORPG side of things. Obviously, if you're looking at this from the perspective of an MMO, Andy, your experience with this MMORPG, despite it not being really an MMO, is going to be enhanced because of all of the other quality stuff that comes along with the campaign portion. Because the campaign portion, despite it being separate to the MMO, you are still getting progression from there, and that's being applied to your MMORPG experience more or less in some ways. And I say in some ways because like there are certain parts of the MMORPG where element, primarily the PvP stuff, where your single player co-op experience is not going to be attributed. That's not going to carry over to the MMO side of things. There are some instances of that, but sorry, I'm kind of I'm getting a little sidetracked here. But the MMORPG part of it, I really enjoyed the PvP content the game had to offer, and I feel like everything, both the PvP and PvE experience was amplified primarily because of the combat. The combat is very much in line with that single player action RPG experience, and I personally really like that. I really think it's good. Flashy animations, cool animations, real-time skill-based maneuvers, right? Like parrying and stuff like that. All of that is present, and it just feels really good, especially in PvP. When it comes to the PvP specifically, this game really shines at smaller scale, like arenas, 1v1, 2v2, 3v3. The PvP is really going to shine. Much like BDO, by the way. BDO is also a game where the small scale PvP is just at another level. I don't know if it's going to be quite at that level, but I think Where Winds Meet is certainly in the conversation. A lot of people were also talking about Naraka, it reminding Where Winds Meet, reminding a lot of people of Naraka, especially because there is a battle royale mode that's also present within the PvP that is completely balanced. And I think this battle royale mode specifically is just a massive W, especially when you're looking at it from the lens of an MMORPG, Andy. Is it the best quality battle royale you'll see? No, obviously not. But is it good enough? Is it fun enough? It absolutely is. And what I really like about this is that it's obviously gear balanced, given that it's a battle royale. And even if you play this game after a year, after 2 years, however long it's been out, you are on an even playing field because it's a battle royale, right? So it allows new players to get into the game and immediately start experiencing the PvP, and the PvP will absolutely be a hook for a lot of people. I can definitely see a lot of people that are into games like Naraka, that are into Black Desert Online, even New World, coming into this game and really enjoying the PvP content that this game has to offer. Like I said, I think it's going to really shine at the lower scale PvP, but the game also does come with GVGs on top of the arenas, the battleground slash battle royale that the game has. The larger scale, I should say, GVG system, I believe it's a 50v50. I don't know how good this is going to be. I don't know if the combat is going to get a little jankier at larger scale, if we're going to feel a little bit more of that performance hit, a little bit more desynciness. I don't know if it's going to just maybe feel spammy. I don't know if there're just going to be a couple of classes that shits on everyone. I don't know, but the idea of having a GVG is really awesome to me as an MMO, Andy, right? The idea of having larger scale PvP is awesome to me, even though it's pretty clear that this game's PvP is going to shine at the smaller scale. I think that is a massive W, and I am definitely looking forward to that content. Now, going to the PvE side of things, again, I really think a lot of even the PvE content is carried by the combat. Really, at the end of the day, I watched a boss raid. I think it's called a boss raid. I don't know if it's just like a field boss fight or whatever it may be. I don't think it's like a full-blown raid, but I watched some of these fights, and honestly, on video, they didn't look super impressive. But when I experienced it for myself, it was way more fun, and that's obviously because of the combat. Right? The combat is just really, really fun. So the PvE is also something I'm looking forward to because there are like 10-man raids and whatnot. However, I'm not really sure if this game is going to deliver a true MMORPG PvE experience. What do I mean by that? Well, the PvE content that I have experienced felt more in line with those single player action RPG games, only I was able to do them in parties. So like, you know, those bosses that you fight, whether it's in Elden Ring or Dark Souls or any of those types of games, it felt more in line with that. Obviously, very different territory. Let me just make that clear one more time before you guys, you know, raise up the pitchforks. I'm just saying, if the boss fights and the PvE content felt more like a single player RPG like experience, only I was doing it with a party. So take that as you will. I'm not really saying that as a negative or positive. It's just a little different. But maybe there are more traditional experience, like, I'm not phrasing this right. Maybe there are other dungeons and raids that I haven't experienced yet that will deliver more of that traditional MMORPG like experience. I'm not really sure though, but I also don't hate this type of PvE content because it feels different. It kind of feels fresh at the same time. Regardless, I don't know too much when it comes to the PvE because I have only done a few of those bosses, but those bosses were pretty fun. I will say the single player PvE experience though is really fun. Again, that's more in line with those single player action RPG games. You have your hard mode, your hardcore mode, and all of that just sounds like just a lot of fun. The fact that that progression is also going towards my MMO character, more or less, I think that's really cool. Now, when it comes to the negatives though, I first and foremost, I think out the gate, for a new player, there are a lot of systems, and some of these systems aren't super clear and can be confusing. So I think there is going to be a little bit of that overwhelming factor for some of the new players, but not to the point where it's going to make you want to quit the game, right? They're just going to be, you know, it's just new verbiage, new terminology, new systems. Everyone's got to kind of go through the growing pains, right? On the other side of this coin though, generally the games that come with these layers and that has this depth, generally that's better for like longer term, right? If you don't have those layers, if you don't have that depth, you can get bored really quickly. There's not much content then. So the fact that this does have depth, that is a good thing. But for a newer player trying to grasp this, I do feel like some of the people will be a bit overwhelmed. So there's that. Not really the biggest con at the end of the day. The second con, I will say, the bigger con, is the performance. I did notice once I went to the online world, I started to notice some of the performance deficiencies when it came to the game. I started seeing some of like the desync animation sliding stuff start to appear, not to the point where I felt like the game was broken, not to the point where I'm going to be like, this game is cooked, right? But I certainly saw a little bit performance frame drops in certain areas, especially online, we're talking about online, especially in some of the areas in my battle royale game. I believe I was 1v1ing someone and there were a bunch of bamboos, and the bamboos were cleaved down, they fell down. Really pretty, but not pretty when it came to my FPS. My frames just took a dive, right? So could be something on my end, but I also have a god tier computer, so you know, take that as you will. There are definitely, when you go online, there are definitely areas or instances where your FPS will take a dive, and you're going to notice a little bit of desyncy stuff when it comes to animations. Now, I do think if this game was a true MMORPG, I would go harder on this con, simply because it would be more prevalent. I feel like people would notice it more. People will be more vocal about it because they're just exposed to it more, right? Large open world, well, maybe not, yeah, open world, a large world, right, where you're sharing this world with a lot of players, and it's constant, and you know, just everyone's always online. There's just going to be more performance issues that come with that. And I feel like some of those, if not a lot of those performance issues, are being masked, mainly because a lot of your gameplay hours are in the single player / co-op mode. So you're not sharing that world online, right? So in those worlds, the performance is great. You know, you don't really deal with latency issues. Me playing on the NA servers within my own world, it felt fine. You don't really feel any of those issues until you come to the online world. So that would be probably the other downside or con that I noticed with the early game, at least within the first 10 hours. So yeah, that's pretty much my early impressions, I guess we can call it that. Take that as you will. This game seems like a game that has some serious potential. I will say, I think from the eyes of an MMO guy, it will really depend on the end game. If they can deliver, if the end game is fun, then, and I'm talking about specific, I'm specifically talking about the PvE, because I think the PvP definitely has some staying power, but the PvE has to be good for this to retain a larger player base over a longer period of time. And that's a big question mark. If it can deliver that PvE content, this game will definitely retain, a larger player base for a longer period of time. If it can't, then it'll obviously be a little bit more niche. Most of the people that will play this game, in my opinion, will probably be people that are just interested in the story campaign and or the PvP side of things. And sure, that maybe that's for PvP standards, that will be enough people, right? But yeah, the PvE is the big question mark. I will stop yapping here. Those are my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Yeah, that's pretty much it. See you guys in the next video.